Hello, vinyl community and other visitors on Mazzy's YouTube channel. I'm going to celebrate an artist whose birthday is today, the day this is recorded, November 27th. This happens to be 2019, but depending when you're watching it, does that really matter? But we're going to celebrate the birthday of Jimi Hendrix. James Marshall Hendrix. That's not even his full real name, actually. But I live in Seattle. I live in the Columbia City neighborhood, Rainier Valley. So literally a quarter mile, or I look out my house. Jimi Hendrix and his family lived here for a short time. He lived in the Central District of Seattle for a long time. Less than a mile from my house is now a Lowe's home improvement store. That used to be Sick Stadium, where the minor league baseball team here played, as well as I think the Mariners, I don't know, played for a couple of years before they built their new stadium. But when Jimi Hendrix was a kid, he saw Elvis Presley perform there. And Jimi Hendrix's last concert in Seattle, just 2 months before he died, was he played at Sick Stadium, which is literally a mile from my house. And it's now a Lowe's. They paved Paradise and put up a parking lot, or put up a Lowe's. I'm going to showcase my Jimi Hendrix record collection. I am not a completist. I don't know every little detail of this version and that version, of the hybrids and the overlaps. I won't get into that. There are plenty of experts are welcome to chime in here, and you can go if you want to know that detail, that extra track, or who overdubbed what, or they're missing this performance from this live show. Go elsewhere. I'm just going to show you my records. But first, I have a very special thing. Instead of holding it to the very end like, teasers do, even I do shit like that, we're going to go on location here. So stand by, and we're going to celebrate the life of Jimi Hendrix music with a little memorial here. So stay with me, vinyl community. Here we are, just south of Seattle by 20 minutes. Jimi Hendrix Memorial. Someone left a birthday cake. Jimi Hendrix's birthday is today, November 27th. So there you go, Jimi Hendrix Memorial, Renton, Washington, 22 minutes from my house, just south of Seattle, where Jimi is buried. And take a ride if you visit Seattle. There's also a statue of him on Broadway in Capitol Hill neighborhood. In the Central District, there's the Jimi Hendrix Park, which is basically just a park named after him. Couple houses and buildings. There used to be the EMP, which is the Experience Music Project, that has been renamed the Mopop. Terrible renaming, branding. But I guess it's become more, rather than just a shrine to Jimi Hendrix, built by the late Paul Allen, one of the Microsoft founders, but he was a very big rock and roll collector and collected a lot of Jimmy's gear, and they do have some of it on the permanent collection there at the Monterey Pop now. I like Experience Music Project. It's a architectural design by Frank Gehry, who did the Bilbao Museum near Barcelona in Spain, and the Disney Center in Los Angeles, downtown LA. Is, you know, wild kind of architecture, which I think is cool. This is a bad design building inside, so they kind of messed that up. But I digress again. So here we go. My record collection, not in total order, and again, I am not a completist, and I don't know every little detail. Unfortunately, when I went through my record purge of the early 90s and got rid of a lot of the great original vinyl I had, my logic at the time, like a lot of people of my generation, was the greatest albums of the artist. Sometimes it's better to sell those because compact discs are better. What the... Anyway, so for instance, Jimi Hendrix Experience, I only have 2 reissues. I don't have my original. I had original reprise copies of that at the time. Never a UK, but these are reissues, mono and stereo. You all know Jimi Hendrix Experience, their first album, Are You Experienced? And you know that the British version, I don't even have the British cover, but here you go, the reissue. In fact, I need to get my act together here a little more here. There's a gatefold on the stereo version with some extra photographs. These were remastered. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Now we can get into the, I'm not going to really get into the whole Alan Douglas versus Eddie Kramer. Alan Douglas, the producer who took over the Hendrix work right after Hendrix died. Controversial when it comes to Alan Douglas and Hendrix fans. We'll get to that music in a little bit. Then there's, of course, the wonderful, I do have one original, my Axis Bowl to Love, but my stereo. I don't know if there was a mono version. Here's a mono reissue. And I think this one actually sounds better in stereo. I'm more of a fan of the stereo of the Jimi Hendrix. So this is an original on reprise, US. I don't have any UK editions of these original albums, except when we come to the next one. And of course, you like when Mazzy has a story. 1969, 14-year-old boy goes to the record store in the mall, wants to get the new Jimi Hendrix record. Well, they have also, for $2 more, the UK track record edition with the original track label. You're 14 years old, and you make sure they put it in a bag and you sneak it in your house. Electric Ladyland with the naked covers on track records. Jimi Hendrix apparently hated this. I don't, you know, when you're a 14-year-old boy, it was kind of creepy in a way. It wasn't like those Playboy magazines we saw when you're 14 years old that you hid, well, never mind. I digress. Hendrix, I can't remember if this is the second pressing or the first pressing of the first edition. There's all you Hendrix freaks will know there's a whole thing about pictures being bigger and smaller. And in fact, I do have a slightly later Polydor version. I think it's the Polydor one. Yeah, this is the Polydor one as well, Polydor. So I have double naked double electric Ladyland naked, Polydor and track records. Track records, excellent sounding, but very well played, crispy, because I would play that all the time. I remember I bought it on New Year's Eve that year because my buddies came over and we played New Year's Eve. We stayed up and we played rock and roll. We made a bunch of tapes and things, and it was pretty fun. So those are the main records that were recorded in his lifetime. A few other things too. Promo copy, I got a reprise of Jimi Hendrix Rainbow Bridge, soundtrack to the movie. And then these are several posthumous releases. A lot of these, not everyone, and again, you know more than I know about Jimi Hendrix. That's fine. You can write it down here. And I might miss speak on this. This is actually a British edition on Polydor of Cry for Love. Now, a lot of the Hendrix fanatics, freaks, Hendrikites, what do they call them? Like, it's not a Beatlemaniac, and what do they call a Hendrikite? Is there a name? Troglodyte? That would be the Trogs. Wild Thing, Connection, Jimi Hendrix, Trogs, Wild Thing. Alan Douglas was assigned, got the job to put out a lot of Hendrix's unreleased music right after he died, like in the next few years, and a lot of stuff came out. There was, I think, just for putting him on and enjoying music, I had no problem with him personally, but he would overdub things, he would take things out of context, so not everything was really pure. But the Hendrix estate chose him, and he did it. There was also Midnight Lighting. I think this is the one with extra other musicians added on. These were on Reprise Records, Warner Brothers at the time, early 80s. This is, no, I'm sorry, it's 1975. I misspoke. Nine to the Universe, another Alan Douglas. These were recordings, the record plant. A lot of studio things, jamming, bluesy stuff, just patched together with Jimi Hendrix, Billy Cox, Mitch Mitchell, Larry Lee's on here. Larry Lee is the one who played with him at Woodstock. They keep cutting the Larry Lee portion out of the Woodstock concert. Buddy Miles on a track here also. This was a 1984 release. Another posthumous, Kiss the Sky. Now, who was brought in for this? This was, well, different studio things. Outtakes, alternate things. Well, this is almost like not really it's a comp, but well, it says from the album, so there are cuts from the album, almost like a comp hits. I don't know, again, you know more than I do, so chime in if you want. Another concert, then concerts. Concerts, to me, are some of the great things of Jimi Hendrix that he left us, and they keep coming out with more concerts. This is a collection of an overview, kind of a comp of best cuts from a lot of his collections. And this was put together again by Alan Douglas, so however you want to discuss this one. This is a promo copy that a Warner Brothers rep gave me in 1982. And this has from San Diego, from Winterland in 68, Royal Albert Hall 69, Winterland again, a lot of Winterland, Albert Hall, Winterland. So this is good up until this box set, the complete 1968 Winterland shows. And this is 8 LPs, and it's all the shows. And he did, what did he do, 2 nights? I believe he did 2 or 3 nights. I think it was 2 nights. But this is really an amazing record, amazing box set. This came out in 2011. The estate is back to using Eddie Kramer. He's been doing the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years maybe. He was one of the original engineers, worked on the original Jimi Hendrix albums. He was also one of the engineers recording at Woodstock too. So this box set at Winterland has all the LPs and obviously a stunning book, including some Jim Marshall photographs. You know how I talk about Jim Marshall all the time, the great photographer. While in San Francisco, you use Jimi Hendrix, and Jimi Hendrix and Jim Marshall have had a history. Then we get into, did I show Crash Landing? I did show Crash Landing there. But talking about the, let's see, what do we got here? We got a few other live things since we're getting into the live arena now. Again, out of order, but this was a hit. This is Band of Gypsys. This came out, this is recorded 69, 70 New Year's Eve at the Fillmore East. And this is when Buddy Miles played with him. And what's interesting about this is 2019 when I'm recording this right now, and I don't have it yet, but Jimi Hendrix, the complete, almost complete. Apparently there's a couple tracks that Hendrix fanatics are bitching about that are missing, but almost a complete Fillmore East New Year's shows is coming out right now. Just came out on CD. The vinyl's coming out in December. Great performance with Buddy Miles and the band of Gypsys. Going back some years out of order again, but 1967, Jimi Hendrix really broke in America because of Monterey Pop. The Monterey International Pop Festival in Monterey, California, south of San Francisco, 2 hours south. The great Monterey Jazz Festival, Pop Festival. Jimi Hendrix just, tore the house down. The exterior house, the outside, the pavilion. This came out in 1970 on Warner Brothers. What's interesting about this, it's one side Jimi Hendrix, one side Otis Redding. So it's not the complete show by any stretch of the imagination. But then years later, in 2014, this came out. This is the complete show, as far as I know, of that performance, lighting his guitar on fire. I think Ravi Shankar was freaked out that both Jimi Hendrix and The Who would destroy their instruments like that. Didn't like that. This is a Polydor import I have of Jimi Hendrix Isle of Wight. Machine Gun, this is the first show. Again, I'm way out of order. I didn't organize these, but you get the idea. The Fillmore East first show. So now, obviously, the full show, 1969-1970, is out now and coming out over the next month on vinyl. Box set. I think it's going to be 5 or 7 LPs. Apparently, I've been hearing earlier reports of the compact disc, and people just love them. Love the sound. Eddie Kramer, again, apparently did a great job. Okay, these are later, now, over the last decade or so, or 6, 7, 8 years, Eddie Kramer is back in the mix with the estate. And here, these are things recorded from anywhere from 68, 69, 70, studio things that Eddie pieced together, some blues riffs. This one is called Both Sides of the Sky. Some of these are instrumental, some are vocals. Really good comps. Again, I just like putting a Jimi Hendrix album on and letting it play. So I'm not one of these archivists that have to know every cut, what's missing, where did this come from. I just like the mood, the soul of his playing, the rock and roll, the psychedelia, the blues of Jimi Hendrix. So this is kind of a really cool record. I like this series of records. Again, the fanatics may vary. Another one, Burning Desire. Is this the one that's the instrumental? Well, this is, it says, Burning Desire spotlights Jimi Hendrix's continuing creative development through the close of 1969, extending into January 1970. And these recorded at the record plant. I think all these are from the record plant during that time. And hear my music. Okay, and more creative explorations. In a way, these sort of complement or emulate what Dylan does and what Miles Davis does with the official Bootleg Series. So some of these are part of the Bootleg Series. These are jams. It has Valleys of Neptune, guitar and piano, Star Spangled Banner, jams, slow version, blues, Olympic Studio blues. And the great Jimi Hendrix with that great white Stratocaster guitar. Gets a left-handed Stratocaster guitar, or right-handed Stratocaster guitar, makes it left-handed or vice versa. I'm blanking out right now. But great show, in fact. Almost looks like not exactly the same shot, but from the same session. Jimi, headphones. Before I get into my last batch of records, I'll just quickly go through some CDs I have. Jimi at Woodstock, don't have these on vinyl. South Saturn Delta, Jimi Hendrix, more outtakes. An Essential, actually I have this on vinyl, so I'll skip that. Jimi Hendrix Experience, the BBC sessions. Blues, all blues jams of Jimi. This is on MCA. So many people have reissued and remastered and reissued. You know, you can go crazy being a collector of some of these artists like this. This is the first CD issue of the Winterland, Jimi Hendrix Experience at Winterland. Nice comp. I prefer the big box because I love listening to all those jams. And Jimi sounds great at that Winterland show. Now, this I don't have on vinyl. I keep getting tempted when I see the price go down, 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 up and down. And it was about a year and a half ago, they repressed it at I think, QRP. And it's the noted and called the Purple Box. It's a great comp overview of Jimi Hendrix. I have the CD version. It's live tracks, studio tracks. Really a great thing. So that Purple Crush Velvet Box, if you ever see it in CD form or on vinyl form at a good price, grab it. I really kind of want the vinyl, but haven't jumped on that yet. Maybe next time I get a bunch of gift cards, I'll get that. So that's CD Jimi Hendrix. And lastly, I'm going to close off with some comps I have. Greatest hits, basically. Jimi Hendrix Experience Smash Hits. This is a reissue. Different cover than came out in the US. They used the original UK cover, as I recall. I just showed this briefly, the Essential of Jimi Hendrix, and I think there's a second volume of this that's blue. Am I right about that? This is a nice comp. It's basically a greatest hits with a few extra cuts of non-hits, so a couple deep album tracks. Really good record. I mean, any Jimi Hendrix you get, if they're in good shape, especially the original Reprise stuff, pick it up. Or obviously the UK stuff, but I'm fine with the Reprise. Reprise had, you know, Warner Brothers had great pressings. And then this is last just a couple years. I love this cover. Do I need it again? Another comp of Jimi Hendrix. A double best of, a later version that came out in 2017, so it's just a couple years old. But I love that photograph of Jimi. There you go. There's the cover picture. Thumbnail. Jimi Hendrix. Happy birthday, Jimi Hendrix. Not so happy, obviously. Hope you liked the little tour of Jimi's memorial on his birthday and my records. What am I missing? I can look it up on Google, but you can tell me because you know more than I do. Anyway, thank you for watching. Mazzy loves you. Namaste. Chili. Is it voodoo children, voodoo child, voodoo chili, voodoo child? That whole controversy too. One more thing. The American Jimi Hendrix Experience. Actually, this is the better cover. Sure, naked electric ladies, you know, when you're 14 years old. But this is a great cover. This is a great cover. Jimi Hendrix, Ladyland. This is his best album. Thank you, VC. Thank you, everybody. Mazzy loves you.